Wait, what? Did the first tax ever collected on Earth actually start the first war in human history? Yeah, that's right. And you thought your regular taxes were bad. At 8 minutes long, this expedition better be worth the pay.
Somewhere buried under 5,000 years of dust is the answer to that exact question. Blue Stickman kicks open the door of a crumbling expedition tent. Sunglasses fogged from the desert heat. Map in hand, already regretting this trip. A voice booms in over his radio, addressing him directly, warning that the ruins ahead have swallowed better explorers than him. Blue Stickman radios back that he's heard that before, and it's never once been true. He ducks under a collapsing archway just as the entrance seals shut behind him, and presses forward into the first chamber, where he finds Exhibit A, a Sumerian clay tablet, dated to roughly 3,300 BC, one of the oldest written tax records ever unearthed. He holds it up to the torchlight and asks aloud who decided grain owed to a temple counted as historic evidence of anything. A rope bridge groans under his weight as he crosses into the next chamber, deeper into the ruins, deeper into the timeline. There, he finds carvings depicting the Egyptian Shemsu-Hor, the biennial, following of Horus, tour where pharaohs collected livestock, oil, and grain as tax starting around 3000 BC. Blue Stickman traces the carving with his finger and notes that the tax funded the pharaoh's household, temple construction, and yes, sometimes war.
Was the tax invented to cause a war? Or was there already a war that needed paying for?
The ruins rumble in response, as if the ancient site itself doesn't want him to know the answer. The voice on his radio breaks the fourth wall, telling him this case has more twists than his sunglasses have UV protection. Blue Stickman winks at the camera and presses on regardless. Deeper in, he finds a chamber dedicated to the Code of Hammurabi, roughly 1755 BC, the Babylonian legal code that formalized grain owed by farmers and rent owed by landholders. He notes that a law code is basically a receipt with extra legal threats carved into stone. But a second inscription nearby suggests Hammurabi's code kept the peace as often as it funded conflict, settling debts before they escalated into anything worse.
Here's the part nobody tells you. Some historians argue taxation early estates wasn't separate from warfare at all, but grew directly out of it, since armies and rulers needed steady revenue just to keep fighting in the first place.
That means the real question buried in these ruins might be backwards. Instead of the first tax starting the first war, the first war might have demanded the first tax just to survive. Blue Stickman's torch flickers. A locked stone door blocks the next passage, carved with a single riddle. Does conflict cause taxation, or does taxation cause conflict? Type your answer on the wall below to proceed. He shrugs at the camera and presses forward without waiting for an answer, because the ruins clearly aren't checking anyway. In the next chamber, a mural depicts Rome's tributum, a wealth tax used to fund military campaigns, evidence that ancient governments openly connected the treasury to the battlefield. Blue Stickman climbs past a collapsed pillar and finds a final artifact nearby, a fragment resembling the Rosetta Stone, technically a tax decree from 196 BC, suggesting some taxes were about diplomacy and temple politics, not war at all.
Of course, the most famous document in history turns out to be a tax form.
The ground shifts beneath him as the chamber begins to seal. A stone bridge ahead is the only way out, and Blue Stickman sprints across it as it crumbles behind him. Still thinking through the case even mid-escape, he bursts into open air at the top of the ruins, finally able to piece it together. He explains to the radio and to the camera that in every early civilization he just tore through, from Sumer to Egypt to Rome, taxation and warfare grew up together, each one justifying and accelerating the other, so early that no clean first exists for either one. Catching his breath, he tells the audience that's the real takeaway. Humans didn't invent taxes and then stumble into war. They built both systems at the same time because one couldn't survive without the other. Just as he turns to head back to camp, his foot catches on something buried in the sand. He digs it out, a second clay tablet, unearthed right there at the summit, dated even earlier than the first one, listing tax owed not to a temple, but to something called simply the army before the army. Blue Stickman stares at the tablet, then at the camera, and asks what exactly could possibly predate an army that predates the first known military. The screen cuts to black as his radio crackles with a voice he doesn't recognize.